continuation of Auntie Haruno's life. I'm Chris Hasegawa, his nephew. Yeah, I'm just saying that for Amy and her daughter. And the rest of us are all just family. And so we're just going to have a little family gathering here. And we thought that we'd start with a song. And our intention, Melinda and I, is that you all sing along with us. And that some of you that really know this song sing loudly, so that we can concentrate on our playing. But it's on the inside of the cover. Morning Has Broken. Excuse me, I got a little electronics to do. So, we probably don't need a microphone if everybody just speaks loudly. Although I grew up here in California, I feel like my connections to the Tsurokas, although infrequent, were deep. You know, Uncle Sho, I remember being this tall, dignified man who would come and visit briefly and always talk to me like an adult. I remember once when I was staying in their apartment in New York, he asked me, I must have been, maybe 10. Says, what are you doing in school? I told him about the math that I was doing. He said, you'd like this book on Euclid. And he gave me this book on Euclid, and we read it together, and he started to create puzzles for me, geometry puzzles. And my dad and I, while Auntie and Mom were talking, would work these geometry puzzles that Uncle would work with. I also remember Uncle Sho because in Uncle Aki's office at his home, he had this machine that had these lights flashing continuously. And I was fascinated by that. And I would look at that thing and I would ask Uncle Aki, what is that doing? And he'd say, it's a do-nothing machine. Uncle Sho built it. And it would have these lights flashing. And I would sit there for a long time just watching those things, thinking there must be some pattern, there must be something to this. And I didn't know what it was. The last time that I remember meeting Uncle Sho was with Gail and Rich in Savannah, Georgia. And we went out to dinner to this seafood restaurant. First time I'd had hush puppies, which I didn't really like. And at the end of the meal, we paid the bill, Uncle paid the bill, and then he left a tip. But he left a New York tip, not a Georgia tip. And the waiter followed us out to the car and opened our door for us. Reggie Gale went back to that restaurant, and he didn't do that every time, right? So that's where I found out the difference between a New York tip and a regular tip. Ted was a cherished explorer of faith and religion. As I was going through all of the things that I was trying to find out, Ted, when I would call him, it was like we were continuing a conversation that we'd had for a long time. And he, as many rabbis do, would answer questions with questions. So you would ask him a question, he would ask you a question, then you'd ask him a question, and he'd ask you a question, and we'd have these conversations by email and on the phone that really helped me think about what's important. And he would talk to me about what is God saying to me? What is he really telling you? What do you need to concentrate on? And so I really valued those conversations. Auntie Haruno was, again, someone that talked to me as an adult whenever we met. She's the only person other than the Tajiri girls that I let call me Chrissy. And she would always say, Chrissy, you know, this is a very important thing. Whatever it was, this was a very important thing, and I want you to think about it. And I would think about it, and I would think, well, this isn't really all that important. And then she would look at a flower, or she'd look at a painting, or she'd look at something, and she would tell me, you know, all these things about it that I hadn't seen. And she would open new doors. And so she was very precious to me. And she was precious to me because my mom loved her. You know, they were such soulmates. And on the program, I have a picture of Mom. Well, I didn't put it on, but I had a picture of Mom and Auntie drinking wine together, where she's falling off the chair. And Denise.
My phone if anyone wants to see it.
Okay, what's up? Me too. And Denise says, well, that might not be respectful for this service, so I took it off. But that picture of the two of them enjoying themselves and enjoying each other just is everything to me. The other thing about Auntie was that as an artist, she framed great art. And so when I went into her shop, she would show me the frames that she was doing, and I had never thought much about frames. And she would show me how this frame did this for this painting, and how this complemented that, and how this worked with that, and gave me nuances. Not something that I could do, but introduced nuances to me that I'd never imagined, that I'd never connected with. And as you'll notice on the program, I put all the pictures in frames. That's for Auntie. They're not as good as the ones that she would have done, but the connection between the frames and the pictures is really important to me, and I thank her for that. Haruno really had, you know, family in New York and a family in California, and so I've asked Jeff, her grandson, to come up and say a few words about Auntie's New York family. Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So let's talk about Grandma a little bit. You know, Grandma, you know, daughter, wife, mother to Ted, Auntie Hunky to many of you, and just plain Hunky to Uncle Rocky, his brother. It's important we talk about family because Grandma was incredibly proud of her family, proud of the people here. You know, she was never happier than when she was talking about us, you know, to anybody. You know, and she was the one who knew where everybody was and what everybody was doing. She really kept track of all that stuff. That meant the world to her. The accomplishments, achievements of her family is something she thrived on. It just made her so proud. It's kind of cool that you know, Chris touched on the picture framing, because that sort of puts it in a nutshell. You know, she did not create the art, but she put the art in such a setting that it really shone. You know, and that's what I think of when I think of Grandma. You know, as that person in the family who is constantly promoting what everybody is doing, making everybody aware that we're all doing pretty damn well. Made her happy to talk about that, as I say. As we also know, Grandma had definite ideas about how you do things. It's a little like Yoda. There is no try, do or do not, as the saying goes. And that was Grandma. If you were gonna do something, you do it the right way, and you do it all the way through. It was somewhat recently she had managed to uncover some family history going all the way back to samurai era. I can see it in her. It's there. The attention to detail. How important it is to do things right. To always present yourself in the best way. So that's what I want us all to think about today when we think about Grandma. Her deep love for all of us here, especially for her son, my dad, tragically departed way too soon. She missed him a lot, even more than the rest of us. And I think she reflected on that loss for the last year of her life. And I want y'all to know that you gave her strength. Everybody here made her happy, made her last year, something that she could really look back on and think of as, okay, she lived to 93, she was with it throughout, she passed on her own terms, with family by her, both in the room and by extension. She knew you were thinking of her, trust me. That was Grandma. So, thanks for coming out this morning.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jack. So I've asked Jack to talk about the California side of the family, and and how he remembers Auntie, because he lived on the East Coast. The only guy wearing a tie besides me.
Auntie Hunky. And I know that she wanted us to call her Aunt Haruno towards the end of her life. But Uncle Lucky and the other brothers and sisters taught us to call her Auntie Hunky. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when she was a child, we used to tease her by calling her Hunk of Cheese. And the name Hunky stuck with her, and as she grew older, she really kind of disliked that.
She never told me that.
Well, I think you were very special to her.
Yeah.
You were exempt from all the rules. But we always saw her when she came to visit us as this very sophisticated New York lady. And we didn't quite know what to do with that because we were all country children. The sound of the weed whacker in the background is really very symbolic of how we grew up. Because our whole childhood was filled with the sound of farm machinery. Not always in the background, always in the foreground really, because we grew up on a farm where things were always working and Papa was always working, and in many cases we were trying to get out of working. So when visitors came like Auntie, it was a great excuse for us not to work. But underneath that veneer of sophistication and the fabulous wardrobe that she always brought, and by the way, pieces of which she always managed to leave with Mom. Mom's closet always expanded when Auntie came to visit. And somehow Mom would always end up with this very flashy leather jacket, this nice silk blouse, a scarf that Auntie had left behind. And when we contacted her, I said, "Oh, just let Yo wear it for us until I come back." And we had a variety of nicknames for Mom, which would be Ness or Yosh, nicknames that nobody else seemed to have for her. But I think Chris's observation earlier that Auntie was Mom's best friend in many ways, the person to whom she was closest, and the person that, in spite of the economic differences and our habit of trying to save money always, somehow Luna was the person that Mom would call when she had some difficult thing in her life or something that she had to face. And they would talk on the telephone, which was the only real extravagance in Mom's life, was to call New York and talk to her sister. They were friends in the deepest sense, going back to when they were in camp. Annie first, and then Luna went out of camp to establish a beachhead with family in Denver. And when the whole family was able to come out and live together in Campus Street in Denver, camp, it was those two who established that beachhead years ago. And even to the extent of sharing beds, one would work at night, one would work in the daytime, so they could have an apartment with only one bedroom. That's how they did it. The whole family pitched in and worked as a unit to help the whole family thrive. And in those times, not only were they brothers and sisters, they were also friends. And that friendship unit, family unit, carried on through the rest of their lives. And that's how I remember them. Haruno and Mom, a bond of friendship, kinship that never left them. So when I think of them in that way. And I hope that when we live our lives together, all of us, that's the kind of kinship that we will have. Friendship, the ability on short notice, and when need arises, that even if we haven't seen each other, talked to each other for years, that when the need arises, we find ourselves in a position of depending on one another, of being able to have the relationship that Mom and Haruno had, that we are a family in the deepest sense, the sense that they had together, so that if we're a hunk of cheese, or we are more formally known to one another, that's what happens in a family. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for coming. That this is a celebration of not only the life of Haruno Tajiri Tsuruoka, but a celebration of relationships and friendships and love that was shared over more than 90 years amongst this whole family and tribe.
Thank you, Jack. You know, Auntie would not want us to be sad and mournful at this time. They're hard not to be. But she would like us to tell stories. I know she would. And I have a story that I don't even know if it's really true, but I'm writing it. That was that when they were living in Santa Maria, my dad, who had been in Sanger and promised to another woman, he left and went over to live with the Kumagais. So he's delivering gas. And Auntie Haruno was taking a Sunday school class that Dad either was teaching or he was, went in to help them do something. I can't really imagine my dad ever teaching a Sunday school class, so I'm trying to figure out a different way that he got connected with that. But Auntie Haruno was the first person in the Tajiri family that saw my dad. And then Dad came out and delivered gas to the farm, and that's where my mom saw him. Mom wrote later in something about him standing like an Adonis, with his shirt off. But,
Hi, Sandy.
Actually, on top of the truck, right, doing the gas. But Auntie was somebody that, was in that relationship kind of from the beginning. And when they were separated, Dad would get news through Auntie Haruno, or Mom would get news through Auntie Haruno. It's like my kids, Matthew doesn't write to us, doesn't text us. So we find out everything because Leslie knows Matthew's girlfriend. And so we get all our news through that conduit. In some way, Haruno was that conduit for Mom and Dad, and they were able to speak through that. So I think it's a pretty good story.
I heard something like that too, so I think that's true.
Whether it's true or it's not, it's great. So I invite you to share any reflections, any stories, anything that you remember about Auntie Haruno, Auntie Hunky, and it doesn't have to be true. It just has to be the way that you remember it. Go ahead.
This is true, and some of you have already heard this story. So she passed at 92. I guess the last time we saw her, she was 90 or 91, and we were at the house, and somewhere I noticed for the first time all that makeup. And I said to her, "You're so beautiful." And she said, "I know, but what good does it do me?" She was good.
Good line.
So we're going to go back to 1983 for this one. Grandma was a world traveler. She did it with Grandpa Show and some things on her own, but when my sister and I reached bar mitzvah at the age of 13, she decided she wanted us to get out there. So she took me on a trip to England and to France. In the summer, it's a great trip. One of the things we were scheduled to do in England was to go to Stonehenge. So we're with the tour group. We pile in the bus from London. We're jetting up whatever that one road that takes you all the way north is. We get to the rest stop. I'm 13 years old. There's a candy store. What am I going to do? I'm going to the candy store. Right? One rest stop serves both north and south. You see where this is going? I inadvertently crossed the little footbridge to take you over to the southbound side. Now, this is England, in the 80s. I'm telling you, not just the stores, but the people looked identical in each spot. Same merchandise, everything. So I get my stuff and I go out to the parking lot where I figure, okay, I'm gonna get on the bus. But there ain't no bus. So I'm looking and I'm like, all right, well. So I go back in the rest stop, I look around. It doesn't occur to me to go back across because I'm not even aware that I had crossed over. I'm 13 years old. I don't understand highways. So a little time goes by, and I'm like, all right, well, crap. I'm left behind. I'm glad I'm in England and not France, first of all. So me being me, I was 13. I've already been living in New York City for a time. Been on the subway by myself, and not a big deal. It's like, all right, I got to get myself out of here. Call the police, to say, look, I'm an American citizen, and my tour group left me on the way to Stonehenge. My voice had already dropped. So the nice Bobby on the other end of the line says, oh, you just need to take a train back to London. And I'm like, I got this. I've done this many times in my life. I hang up and I said, where the hell is the next train station? So I go into the restaurant. I talk to the manager. Happens to be a nice Japanese lady. Who knew? Who gets it out of me who the tour company was, calls and lets them know that I'm safe, and then calls her husband in to drive me to the train station. So meanwhile, go to grandma in the bus without me. Wondering, right, how am I going to explain this to Lyndon? She fought them hard. She wanted to get out and rent a car and drive back herself. They're like, no, we're not losing two of you.